So is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan Mutual Defense Pacts just optics, or is it formalizing an existing security architecture and bringing Pakistani nuclear umbrella over Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to defend against Israel? So we have experts from India and we have experts from West Asia joining us on this special broadcast. I have Group Captain MJ Augustine Vinod, former fighter pilot and a drone expert, joining us on this show. Ambassador Veena Sikri is a top former diplomat, joins us on this show. Dr. Wael Awad, a very well-respected political analyst and senior international correspondent keeping a hawk eye on developments in West Asia, joins us. And also with me on this broadcast is Dr. Shuki Friedman, who's Director General of the Jewish People's Policy Institute, joins us from Israel. And Sandeep Punithan is a top journalist who joins us on this special broadcast. Dr. Awad, let me begin by asking you. Pakistani pilots have been flying Saudi jets since the 1960s. As you well know, Pakistani commandos were a part of fighting that siege of the Grand Mosque. So what's happened now? Is this just a formalization of an agreement, or is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia hedging after the Israeli strikes on Qatar?
Absolutely is the second part of your question, Gaurav, which is absolutely correct. The changing of the geopolitical situation in West Asia, especially after the Israeli attack on Qatar, which have put all the GCC countries at a vulnerable stage, losing their trust and credibility to the United States, who is supposed to be considered the GCC as the custodian for its protection, for its security, for its interest. In fact, the American did not even hesitate in threatening the USSR those days, that these are our area of interest. If you involve yourself or interfere there, we will not be reluctant to use a nuclear weapon. So therefore, this is what happened. Now Israel attacked Qatar. Ministers in Israel are saying that Saudi Arabia, 1/3 of Saudi Arabia is part of the greater Israel, which is including Medina and Mecca, which is Saudi felt they are more vulnerable now. If nobody can protect any of these people, so there are lots of reapproachment and realliances in the region, whether it is Saudi and Egypt, whether it's Saudi or Pakistan, or whether it is Turkey and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia in the future. So I think it's just a matter of a nuclear deterrent for to be protecting Saudi Arabia. Nothing else to read on this.
Okay. Ambassador Sikri, does India have reason to be worried? Is this agreement disadvantage India?
No, I don't think so. I think, as our spokesman said, of course, India will study the agreement carefully. But we do know that India-Saudi Arabian relations have seen a huge growth and great strength in the last year. Our Prime Minister Modi, has been awarded the highest honor, the Order of King Abdul Aziz, which is very rare honor to be given to a foreign leader. Saudi investments in India have grown 10 billion and more, and many more expected, because Saudi Arabia is looking to invest its huge amount of funding into India. They find the Indian market very attractive. They find Indian investments very stable and a good return on them. So I think that process will definitely continue. And because of this good relationship, our Prime Minister was there earlier this year in the month of April. I'm sure there can be direct talks between India and Saudi Arabia on this. Frankly, my position is, I do think that Pakistan, the narrative that Pakistan is trying to spread at all times is about their victory in Operation Sindhu. Every time, for their own people, they said, we are the victors, we've done this, that, and the other. And they've completely ignored all the factual, visual evidence about the destruction on their airfields and runways and command control centers, and of course, the terrorist hideouts as well, from Muridkep and Bawalpur and other places. So after the war, not only yielding this narrative in their own country, they also then went, Asim Munir had that lunch with President Trump to show that now America wants Pakistan. And of course, they've sold, so much of these crypto and other things. And President Trump's family also has investments now in Pakistan. And now again with Saudi Arabia, to show that how Saudi Arabia also wants Pakistan. So this is a narrative that they are really wanting to build up. We do know that the defense relationship between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan is of long standing. It has its ups and downs, but it's of very long standing. So it's not anything new. So I do think that this is something that we have to look at very carefully, but not to be worried about. I think the attack on Qatar was a very major shock for the West Asian countries. But whether this agreement between Qatar and between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan is the beginning of a collective Islamic NATO? I don't think so, because Israel and
Let me
Saudi
let me let me take
Arabia
this
have
open.
to do.
Give me a moment, ma'am. Let me widen the horizon and keep it for a moment on India, and then widen it to the Islamic NATO group. Captain Vinod, when Pakistan could not defend itself against India, Pakistan may be lying, their army may be lying to their people, and they may stupidly believe their army chief who promoted himself. But it's a fact, 11 Pakistani air bases were decimated. And Saudi Arabia knows that, America knows that. How will it defend the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and from whom when it can't defend itself?
Gaurav, you just took the punchline out of what I was going to say. See, the biggest question is they have taken a leave from the Article 4 and Article 5 of NATO and said attack on one will be construed as attack on the other. So it is verbatim from Article 5. Now, the question again remains with Shaheen 3's 2,750 kilometers of range, which covers the entire Middle East. Will Shaheen 3 be fired if Saudi gets attacked by Israel? Is a very big question mark. On paper, yes, it will, because attack on one is construed on attack on the other. I tend to disagree with what Chief said, and the question that you asked him also, that when we attack their air bases, which is direct attack on military, will Saudi either attack India or give the
Okay.
arsenal to Pakistan to be used against India? That is question number two. Well, could it all be a show or a big change showing America can't be trusted anymore? But it is interesting to watch, like a new game where Islamic nations now wanting to take charge. For them, it is power in numbers, weapons
Okay.
and faith, both holding hands. For the rest, it is a warning. So in the end, the agreement, as I say, Gaurav, is more than just a piece of paper. It
So
is a
it's
plan
more
for
than
a very
optics, is what
strong
you're saying.
defense. No, and
Sandeep,
also one
Sandeep.
question. I want to leave one question. What happened
Okay.
to the post-Cold War non-aligned movement, which is now in the cold storage? What happens to that? That is a very big question. Over to you.
Okay, non-alignment died a long time back. It's an era of being multi-aligned. But let me throw that to Ambassador Veena Sikri in a moment. But Sandeep, is this Pakistan's biggest dream, that its nuclear bomb is that Islamic bomb to protect the entire ummah? A pauper Pakistan now wanting to show that I need money from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from other countries, because I have the Islamic bomb to protect the ummah.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And in fact, from the very beginning, Pakistan has leaned on the Arab countries, on the Muslim countries to finance its weapons program, starting from Muammar Gaddafi of Libya to the Saudi Arabians in the 80s and the 90s. And we have several testimonials from former officials of Pakistan's Strategic Plans Division that Saudi money was used to fund Pakistan's nuclear weapons program. And about in 2013, the BBC had an investigative documentary where they spoke of a cash and carry deal that Saudi Arabia had with Pakistan, that in exchange for the cash, they would be allowed to use a certain number of Pakistani nuclear warheads in an emergency. And that emergency is, of course, Iran going nuclear. And there's also talk of the IRBMs, the Dongfeng 2 IRBMs that Saudi Arabia has bought from China. The warheads for that would be the Pakistani nuclear weapons. So all of this was there in the closet for several years now, all of these deals. But now, the unpredictability of the West Asia, the fact that the United States is not being seen as a reliable ally, all of these old problems have come out in the open. Saudi Arabia is clearly worried, as Ambassador Sikri said, by the attack on Qatar. And it is looking for a nuclear umbrella of some sort. And Pakistan is there. It needs money. And it's leveraging its Islamic bomb to, get itself some money.
So whatever happened to nuclear non-proliferation, America turned a blind eye to it earlier. Is America doing so once again? Dr. Shuki Friedman, did the Israeli strikes on Qatar actually weaken the US position in West Asia? Qatar is extremely angry. And how do you view Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's mutual defense agreement with Pakistan in Israel?
First of all, this new pact is definitely might be bad news for the region, because it's clear that it's changed in a way the balances in the region between the Shiites and the Sunni states, and also between the Arab countries and Israel. Israel, according to foreign sources, holds some nuclear warheads, and so far was the only state in the region and one of 9 in the world that have nuclear capabilities. But while Saudi Arabia never started to initiate a project to develop nuclear capabilities and also weapon, the possibility that the nuclear head of the Islamic Pakistan will be relevant to the consideration and strategies in the region change a lot for Israel, but also for other countries in the region, because it's not just Iran, of course, that on the other side of this balance, but also Egypt and other countries that might seek the ability to produce or maybe purchase such capabilities. And the main concern
Okay.
that raised by Iranian bomb is a nuclear race in the Middle East. It might change its course and start a nuclear race in the Middle East.
It'll start a nuclear race in West Asia, is your appreciation. Dr. Vailawad, Saudi Arabia today, Qatar under that same umbrella tomorrow. Do you see that happen? And what does this mean, for Pakistan's other neighbor, Iran? Will it lead to escalations of tensions with Iran, tensions between Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Pakistan, Iran?
Now, why, Gaurav, the tension has to be with Iran? That is the American narrative that they have been telling the Gulf country, be careful from Iran, they will invade you, they will conquer you. And here you go, Israel.
Okay, Dr. Awad, give me a moment as I try and reestablish that link with you, sir. Give me 30 seconds. We'll just reestablish that link with you. But Ambassador Sikri, Pakistan is playing this game very deftly, very nimble-footed. When Imran Khan was at the helm of affairs, Pakistan just did a 180 degrees, because that time with Turkey and Malaysia, Pakistan was talking about an alternate enlightened ummah, and suddenly Pakistan is back with Saudi Arabia. It just shows that Pakistan is playing almost all sides, and if I may, quite well.
Well, I don't think so quite well. I think they're very easily exposed. For example, when Iran was facing the attack from America, they said, oh, Pakistan has promised us that if there's an attack on Iran, then by America, then Pakistan will come to the help. Nothing happened. Pakistan didn't show up anywhere. So Pakistan's ability to match its deeds with its words is severely limited. It's severely limited. Do you think that, you're talking about Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have a defense pact? Who is Saudi Arabia fearing an attack from? Israel or USA? So if USA attacks Saudi Arabia, is Pakistan going to come to the defense? Because Pakistan's own relations with America are at a different level. And if Israel attacks Saudi Arabia, again, Israel has a very close defense agreement with the USA. So is Pakistan going to defend, Saudi Arabia from attack against Israel? So these are, highly, the moment you go to the next step of implementation of matching deeds with words, Pakistan gets exposed immediately. So I think while it may look very good on paper, I think that this narrative is really to strengthen Pakistan's show for its own people and what they think is their own relevance in the world. And certainly, with America, they have been able to do it because of cryptocurrency, because of the deals on crypto, the deals on critical minerals. But they say those critical minerals have already been promised to China. So where is it? Where is what at? So I do cast a doubt on Pakistan's ability to match its deeds with words. But I would like to say directly that India will certainly maintain its own position on describing every act of terror as an act of war. And we've said that Operation Sindoor is only in a ceasefire in the Yudhgram. And if any other act of terror comes, we will resume. We will not be deterred by this kind of an agreement or anything like that. We have our own relationship with Saudi Arabia. We will certainly be holding talks with them, I'm sure, very soon to find out the details. And Saudi Arabia themselves have given a strong statement saying that they expect that good relations with India will continue to get a good boost. They value their relationship with India. So let's not get carried away, but certainly it's something that we will look at very carefully, no doubt about it.
Okay, Dr. Awad, if I have that link back with you, is this like an Islamic Article 5 NATO like Islamic states coming together, countries coming together? It's Pakistan and Saudi Arabia right now. Qatar and perhaps other Sunni Muslim countries may join in, or in your appreciation, will Shia Muslim countries also perhaps gradually join in?
Absolutely not. I don't see any Islamic bomb. You cannot call a nuclear deterrence or as a nuclear or it's an Islamic bomb. This is something that is not to be used. It's supposed to be a deterrence. It's simply trying to protect a nuclear shield to Japan and South Korea. I mean, everybody wanted to be protected because of North Korea. We have the same problem. It's only Israel in Middle East and West Asia who is having the nuclear weapon. So if somebody protecting you, preventing an attack on your country, I don't see India should worry. I tell you something, Gaurav. Saudi Arabia position for the last decade have been very lenient toward India. Even Pakistan felt that one. The resentment in Islamabad was very strong about India position, Saudi position. They wanted to invest $200 billion in the Indian market. If you want to put this much money in India, will they go for an India attack on India? I don't see this is going to be, I mean, we do not want to hype it. Nevertheless, we need to study. You need the assurances from your partner that this is nothing to do with India-Pakistan issue.
Oh, I agree with you entirely. India has very, very warm, ties with Saudi Arabia. And these, again, have been civilizational from ancient times. Dr. Shuki Friedman, Pakistani generals and political leaders, they boast they are the only country with the capability of targeting Israel. They have the only country that have the missiles that can target Israel. Pakistani terrorists, as you well know, have been involved in killing Israeli citizens on Indian soil during 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. Does the Pakistan Kingdom of Saudi Arabia agreement limit Israel's options in the region?
As I said before, it definitely changed the situation and balances, and I don't think that Israel is thinking or considering in any circumstances attacking Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not an enemy for Israel, and hopefully we might be able to normalize our relations with Saudi Arabia soon, and the Saudis will join to the Abraham Accord agreements. But definitely Saudi Arabia now, while actually had the ability or partly theoretical ability to have this ally with the Pakistani nuclear weapon, is changing the consideration for Israel as well. Having said that, I think it's quite, for now, theoretical that this pact will have an implementation or direct implementation toward Israel. It's true that through the war in recent 2 years, Pakistanis declared a few times that they might act against Israel or sit in on Israel. But again, I think Pakistan have its interest and regional interest, and to be engaged with Israel in an armed conflict, I don't see it.
So let me bring in Group Captain Vinod into this conversation once again. Group Captain Vinod, is there an apprehension that Pakistan could get sucked into tensions between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, for example? And should that happen, will it increase tensions on Pakistan's other border with Iran?
Good question, Gaurav. See, proof of the pudding is in eating. The paper says very clearly attack on one will be construed as attack on the other. Now, what will come first needs to be seen. In my opinion, um, us attacking Pakistan and Saudi coming to rescue is much less of a possibility than, Houthis or Iran attacking, or maybe Israel attacking Saudi and Pakistan going for rescue. And like Ambassador correctly said, will Pakistan measure up? I really don't know. But since it is on paper, now it is formalized, and against which I am sure, billions of dollars will be doled out to, Asim Munir and Shahbaz Sharif. Will they measure up? If they do, that will be the warning bell. If they do, if Pakistan doesn't do, which I tend to agree with probably ambassador, that it didn't do in the past, so therefore it wouldn't do in the future, except the fact that it is now inked. So जो काला अक्षर है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बहस बराबर है कि नहीं, we will come to know.
Fair enough. Sandeep, in the 1980s, there were some reports that seemed to indicate Israel wanted to strike Pakistan. They wanted to strike before Pakistan could get its nuclear weapon. And that just shows that Israel had seen or war game what would happen in the future. They just sought refueling facilities in India, according to some reports. Now, one, will this development lead to closer intelligence and perhaps operational cooperation between India and Israel, especially against a terror state like Pakistan?
Absolutely, Gaurav. You know, there were those reports in the 80s, and this followed the 1981 attack by Israel on Osirak, the Iraqi nuclear reactor facility. And the stories of the early 80s indicate that Israel approached India for refueling facilities for its fighter jets, because they wanted to take out the Kahuta nuclear weapons facility before it actually started producing bomb-grade uranium. Now, that story has never been confirmed officially. It's one of those urban legends that keeps floating around. But there is reason to believe that there was these kind of plans that were planned, because Israel, as we've seen recently and in the past, Gaurav, you know, acts proactively. It does not wait for a problem to present itself at its doorstep. And it was quite possible that they saw this threat emerging and affecting Israel one day, where, as the group captain mentioned, today Pakistan is the only country which has the Islamic bomb and the ability to target Israel with its Shaheen 3 IRBMs, ballistic missiles. So if Pakistan were to posture publicly, if its generals were to come out and threaten Israel, you can very well be sure, Gaurav, rest assured that there will be an Israeli strike against Pakistan's nuclear facilities, and that would come very quickly. So I think Pakistan has been lying low. I mean, there might be private conversations about striking Israel with its ballistic missiles, but publicly, Pakistan has never come out and threatened Israel, because they know that there will be a swift retaliation. And in fact, the point that you made about intelligence cooperation, I'm sure that is already, I have no information about that, but I would imagine that a Pakistani nuclear weapons capability, and especially now with this agreement with Saudi Arabia, is something that would worry Israel greatly. Okay. And it would want more intelligence about Pakistan's special weapons capabilities, Gaurav.
Because with Pakistan, you never know whether state actors have the nuclear weapon or non-state actors will have access to those weapons. But Group Captain Vinod, the concern for India may well be, should there be a next, God forbid, a next terror attack that's traced back to Pakistan? Pakistan will not only have its own fighter jets, it may have access to the Saudi fighter jets. So it may have, numbers on its side. It may have access to other military hardware from Saudi Arabia. Worse, it'll have access to funds from Saudi Arabia. It'll free its own funds to fuel terror in our country.
Absolutely. And Gaurav, I want to correct you. When it comes to Pakistan, there is nothing called non-state actor, because everything in and from Pakistan is Pakistan state sponsored. So it is state sponsored. The word non-state actor was, I don't know, in the early 2000s, someone inserted into the realm of discussion, and we are following it to the T even till date. I've been saying this for umpteen number of times.
True.
When it comes to Pakistan, it is state sponsored. There is nothing like non-state actor. Now that out of the way, it will. I'm completely agree with you, Gaurav. It will have access to a very high-end military hardware. What we knocked off, the AWNC and AWACS, it will have a very deep access to intelligence, which is not only US based intelligence, but also intelligence which is organically developed by Saudis. So, and other than that, like you said, access to funds, but during operations, access to fund has very little meaning, except for logistics sustainability post the sustenance period. In case of Pakistan, that is like about a week to 10 days. Post that, the funds will kick in. But if you lose fighters, you cannot replace them during war, be that as it may. Most important part is, the picture speaks 1,000 words. We've
Yes.
never seen ever that with the head of the state, the head of the military also goes everywhere, like a tail. You see the visit to China. You see the current visit. You have
No, in
Asim
fact,
Munir tagging along.
yeah. In fact, it's a case
That
of
is
wag the dog. It's the tail that wags the dog in
or the
Pakistan. But and Ambassador Sikri, that should be a major cause for concern for India. The Saudi funds that may now be available to Pakistan to fund terror in India.
Yeah, I think that is the core of the issue, because I think Pakistan is looking not only to reinforce its own relevance in the region and in the world, but it's looking for money all the time. We know that from IMF, that innumerable times have gone to IMF, but IMF conditionalities are something that they've never been able to fulfill. Even now, they're struggling with fulfilling IMF conditionalities, and so future tranches of money are, always being put under a question mark. So certainly, I think by concluding this deal with the with Saudi Arabia, their search for funds is what they hope will come to an end. And long before they are even able to think about, a next war or something like that, because today even some of their runways have not yet been repaired. Their command and control center, they're still trying to dig out people who were there and so on. But they will be seeking to replace all their, Air Force defense. But a lot of this was coming from China. Now we do know that
Yes.
China itself is very peeved with Pakistan because of their overtures to USA. And this has caused, in fact, a great change in China's attitude. And we now recently learned that the flagship BRI project of China, which was the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is no longer going to be financed by China. It's now being given to the ADB for financing.
Yes.
And Pakistan is asking ADB for money, but ADB is saying, we'll charge you commercial rates. So, Pakistan is very seriously strapped for funding. And so I think they are going to use Saudi Arabia's billions. And are they going to buy American weapons with that? I think this is
And
the question that comes to mind very much, because that is
it
what
indeed does. But let me also play it the other way. Then in the last 1 minute that I have on this part of the show, Dr. Shuki, I want to understand from you, sir. Would Israel be concerned that China may try to use the Pakistan route to gain inroads or make deeper inroads into West Asia now that the US appears to be withdrawing its, or is seen to be withdrawing its strong control in that region and not stopping that bombing of Qatar by Israel? So will China occupy that vacuum?
First of all, I don't think that the US is withdrawing from the region. Basically, the attack of Israel on Qatar was against, not Qatar, but against terror leaders
Hamas.
that Qatar sheltered over there. But I think the big picture is that the US, China, Russia, and the US are struggling on the Middle East for a long time. And the US Army have a huge interest in Qatar, and the Air Base and other interest in Saudi Arabia and so forth. So I think the struggle on the influence, power, and economy of Middle East between China and the US will continue. I definitely see the allies and the Chinese trying to strengthen their connections with Pakistan and with Iran, of course, and in some ways in Saudi Arabia as well. But still, the US is very strong in the
Okay.
region, have strong allies in the Gulf, in Saudi Arabia, and other places, and recently built the corridor just to the northern of
Yes.
the Iranian border to enable strategic allying with the Stanis. So I think US is here, the Chinese are here, and we see both sides trying to hold and to strengthen their holding in the region.
Fair enough. A very, very interesting time to watch this entire region. But there is a cause for concern for India, and that's on our other border. I want to thank Dr. Shuki Friedman for joining me here on this part of the show.